Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Parliamentary colleagues, I stand in this honored house today to make my contribution to this 2022-23 national budget. I want to start out by bringing greetings to the great people of Central Grand Bahama, whose voices and interests I proudly represent and protect. Before I move on, I want to share something very personal with this House. As most of you would know, last Tuesday marked the 8th anniversary of the passing of my son, who was tragically killed in a traffic accident. And anyone who has ever lost a child or someone close to them knows that it never gets easier. Over the last 2 weeks, I lost two young cousins, two young mothers. One turned 48 years old. She died 2 days before her son graduated from primary school, Teresita Thomas. And on Saturday, one from West End, Barbara Lewis, Bobby, died 2 days after her daughter graduated from high school, BMES. And even through that, I'm still reminded of God's grace and His blessings. And so I'm grateful and thankful for all God continues to do for me and for my family. To my family in Grand Bahama, mainland Freeport and Waterkey, Grand Key, East End, who remains my North Star, thank you for continuing to be there for me. And to my two lovely daughters, Jasmine and Imari, I'm so proud to be a father. Colleagues, I urge all those in this House and around the Bahamas to please cherish the ones around you and the moments you share. Tell them you love them often. And in the meantime, give God all the praise. Remember, the best thing that you can spend on your children or on your family is not money. The best thing you can spend is time. Madam Speaker, Mr. Deputy, I'm always thrilled to advise this honorable House that the world-famous Central Grand Bahama Farmers Market Festival is still in tip-top shape, and it's growing daily, just like the seeds that we plant. We continue to invite the entire Bahamas to join in these efforts to get into farming, grow more, and help to limit our reliance on importation. And of course, this Saturday, at the same location, we'll be having our post-Father's Day grill and chill. So come and grill and chill with your pa. I reiterate my vows to Central Grand Bahamians and to the Bahamas at large to continue to agitate on this front and ensure that food security is one of the priorities of the day. Now, let me jump right into it. There's an opening phrase that one of us always starts in this House. Say, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. I speak of none other than the member for Carmichael. But I can tell you what, the words of his mouth is not sitting good with the hearts of the people. He said last week, and this speaks to the fact that this is a government of conflict and contradiction.
Stunning achievement.
Conflict and contradiction.
Stunning achievement.
Yes, after the Carmichael's member contribution, the member for Kalani pointed out and confirmed by the investors that there will be $400 million infused into the economy. I said to Carmichael, is it a bad deal because the hair braiders will be a part of this $400 million? Is it a bad deal because the straw vendors will receive a part of this $400 million? Is it a bad deal because the taxi drivers will receive a part of this deal? Is it a bad deal because the tour operators will receive a part of this deal? Is it a bad deal because the car rental owners will receive a part of this? I ask you, is it a bad deal because Bay Street stores and vendors will also receive a part of this? Or is it a bad deal because the Surrey owners will receive a part? Or is it a bad deal because the jet ski operators, the dive operators, Junkanoo Beach operators, Mr. Deputy, the PLP bragger would be in the party of the people. Yet this port is beneficial, especially to the poor man and entrepreneurs, and the member of Carmichael opposes this deal. However, the member for Exuma, and you know, when I say this is a government of contradiction, and I read the newspaper, on June 15, 2023, the Nassau Guardian, the Guardian, he said, Bell, cruise port, the worst deal ever in the history.
Who said that?
The Guardian, Bell.
Who's Bell?
Cruise port, the member for Carmichael. Cruise port deal is the worst ever
Bell?
in the history. Although Prime Minister Philip Davis and Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper both recently applauded the partnership with Global Port Holdings, which gave birth to the newly opened $300 million Nassau cruise port. Minister of Labor and Immigration, Bell, yesterday the former minister's administration for entering into a bad deal for the port, a deal he termed a national disgrace. Contradictory. The same newspaper, the Nassau Guardian, the same newspaper carries a report from the Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister praises the cruise port. He cruises it is, whose report would you believe? Whose report would you believe? I say we believe the report. We shall believe the report of the member for Exuma. It is a good deal. The Bahamian people will benefit. It's obvious that these members are not on the same page. They're not singing from the same song sheet. And when they're singing from the same song sheet, you have some singing A minor, some singing in C sharp, and most of all, the majority singing in F minor.
What you all two singing
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this is obviously proof that we have a government of contradiction and conflict. Everyone is on a different page. I am a community leader and member of parliament.
Member, the chair recognizes the honourable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
The member,
Stop.
the member obviously, and I don't intend to waste too much time with the member on government of contradictory, because he's not proven there's any contradictory. One member has a view, and the member said that he believes a bad deal, but no one ever said it's not a good port. That's not a contradictory. A bad deal is a bad deal. A bad deal is a bad deal. What makes it a contradictory? They're two different views. What you don't understand. You're reading something you don't understand.
Michael is a cabinet member. Exuma is a cabinet member and the deputy leader. They are saying two different things. They're saying, but the Bahamian people know better. The Bahamian people know better.
Order, members,
Mrs. Deputy.
honourable members,
You gotta protect me. They're trying to break my stride. But like you said, ain't nothing gonna break my stride.
Honourable members.
Nothing gonna slow me down. I am a community leader and a member of parliament, but I'm also a businessman. And I'm a true Grand Bahamian, a navel string buried Grand Bahamian. We know that the island and its people have been struggling to right-size itself for many, many years. Hit after hit after hit, but little to no relief. We
honourable
are
members,
resilient and stands the test of time.
Honourable members.
Mr. Deputy, my 18 house is too boring all day.
The same one who Exuma we can vote.
See anything else about it? If they come in the
Same one.
contribute some money, it's not right.
Deputy.
The house was I guess too boring all day.
You are bad influence on Mr. Wiltshire.
Mr. Deputy, I truly believe that not enough is being done to protect
order, honourable members.
common man in Grand Bahama.
Yeah, the chair
And throughout
recognizes
the
the honourable
country.
member for Yamakra.
They are getting leftovers. A
Members,
barely functioning
member.
airport is not enough. No, point of order? What is the point?
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Yamakra. One member on his feet, please. Honourable member. Yeah, I get this.
They want to be the speaker also. Mr. Deputy, the members seeking to be intentionally misleading, and he has yet to prove what he said. What he has said, he is just reading and spewing. So if the member cannot prove that what he is saying is actual fact, then he must either remove it off the record because there's no contradictory. I'm on a point of order. He is misleading. Mr. Deputy, if one would purchase a vehicle, the contract for purchasing a vehicle may be a bad contract, but the vehicle may be a nice vehicle. It's very simple. The member is choosing to, so if he doesn't understand what he's saying by a bad deal means a bad contract. The product itself is a good product that was hailed. There's no contradiction. The member needs to go back to school.
Thank you, honorable member. Yeah.
Mr. Deputy.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for free time.
Point of order?
Yes,
I guess
the point of order, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is he flashes the headline.
I didn't write them.
Well, what is the, I'm on a point of order. What the story says, and in the story it says, you finished?
Honorable members.
You finished?
Honorable members.
You finished? In the article, Mr. Deputy Speaker, entitled DPM Praises Cruise Port, the Tribune says this. The Tribune says specifically, Cooper did not respond directly to his colleague minister. So in the story itself, the Guardian.
Not one says
That in the Guardian story, where the headline is DPM praises cruise port, the writer of the article, that article says, it says in terms that the DPM does not respond to Minister Bell's point.
Exactly.
So he is misleading, and he can perhaps table it.
Thank you, honorable member.
Headlines are deceiving.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deputy, a barely functioning airport in Grand Bahama is not enough. However, thank you to Exuma and Ragged Island. Thank you to Exuma and Ragged Island for the recent announcement that we will be getting a new airport in 2025. An inadequate healthcare system is still not enough, so let's hope that the ground that was rebroken in Grand Bahama for the healthcare facility that the member for Pine will talk about comes into fruition. I really believe that he should apologize. 30 minutes of a cruise ship stop is not enough for the Port Lucaya vendors. Mr. Deputy? Mr. Deputy? Especially to maintain the injection of revenue needed to sustain a stagnant economy in Grand Bahama. Grand Bahamians are concerned over the state of the island and its economy. Yes. And they have every right to be. Yes. They have a right to be worried. Yes. They have a right to ask questions. They have a right to be angry. Yes. Grand Bahamians have been denied personal development and growth. Yes. Grand Bahamians are tired of being treated like stepchildren. They want vision. And we know that without vision, the people perish. I refuse to let Grand Bahamians and the Bahamas at large suffer to a government with blinders on. It's time to put on some spectacles for clearer vision. More grants needed to be made available for small and medium-sized businesses. I've said it before, there needs to be a better way to manage the heads of agreements that are being granted to foreign investors. There are many investors who have benefited greatly in Grand Bahama. Many investors, and I want you to listen to this. However, However, I'm speaking on behalf of Grand Bahamians for the people of Grand Bahama and of course the Bahamas. However, I got cool now. However, over time, these investors pull out or abandon their projects and property and have still been allowed to keep the property to the chagrin of the people. For far too long, these investors have been allowed to set up shop and leave once things get rough, without any consequences and with the Bahamian people holding the leaky bag. When you drive around Grand Bahama, there are dozens of businesses and buildings that have been abandoned. The Princess property in Grand Bahama has been abandoned since 2004. For heaven's sake, that's too long. It was an eyesore in the city of Freeport, a crime breeding area, a mosquito breeding ground, and a health hazard. That was until Central Grand Bahama entered into an agreement with the local management team to clean it up, restore the water park and fish pond, and is now used by Grand Bahamians to generate revenue to feed their families. You know, I hope this partnership continues, because this ground is being used by Grand Bahamians to make money on a regular basis. So I hope this partnership continues. You know, in recent times, unfortunately, the power company, we had a meter there, and the power company 4 weeks ago took the meter out. So there's no electricity on the site. The fish pond that had thousands of fish at the upper level dried up. This could have been done as a community. I reach out to them and I will continue. See if they can put it back, because this is a disservice to the people. People are using it to take pictures to generate revenue. I'm speaking as a Grand Bahamian, as a concerned citizen. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in here. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in here. Wait, you ever been to Grand Bahama? You ever been to Grand Bahama? You in Freetown. Let's talk about Grand Bahama. I believe that the future heads of agreements should include bonds so that the people of Grand Bahama and the Bahamas will be protected. I say give the property back to the people and make the abandoners pay. It's time for us as a government to tighten up. I believe if investors were to provide bonds in the event that projects default, the people will have some level of insurance and they will have even greater sense of autonomy. It boggles my mind how this New Day government has been preaching that Grand Bahama is grander than ever, but has no proof to show for it. According to their budget, even though the island typically contributes, even though the island contributes 12% of the overall GDP of the Bahamas, Grand Bahama's economy declined by 9% when compared to the previous year. The member for Cat Island described this as a prolonged decline in the Grand Bahamian economy and then blamed the Hospital Creek Agreement economic model for their failures to bring about the change they promised. For years, Grand Bahamians have agitated against this model for governance of their water, electricity, and independence. Is this West End contribution? Come on, you got to keep it. We agree that the issues are, in fact, systematic and fundamental, and decisive actions must be taken. The Cat Island MP announced that the Bahamian people can expect a separate, detailed announcement. Mr. Deputy, Grand Bahamians do not want rhyme and riddle. We don't want empty promises. We don't need any empty announcements. We want straight answers. This is not a game. It is our way of life. If you have a plan, let us see it. I echo the sentiments of the leader. There must be widespread consultation with residents and stakeholders on the island on the way forward for the island. While we agree that something has to change, we know it must be done the right way. After so many struggles, Grand Bahamians cannot and do not deserve you playing Russian roulette with their emotions and their lives. Yes. Even though we are resilient. What did y'all do about it? Yes, nothing. Now, budget response. Mr. Deputy, in his communication, the member for Cat Island, good member for Cat Island, described this budget as his administration's best expression of the intentions of the government. He said this budget is expected to do three things: national security, economic security, and the lives and livelihood of the people of the Bahamas. Well, if this is the best you have, I'm not impressed. You have sorely undelivered. This budget does not make anyone feel safe. It does not serve the everyday man. It does not serve the mom and pop stores or big businesses. If you ask me, I'm not even sure it's where the paper is printed on. Time to go back to the drawing board and present a real budget for the people. We see we did the numbers, and for some reason, something is simply not adding up. The domestic economy supposedly showed a notable rebound in the country's economic activity. Of course it has. The world had stopped for just over 2 years because of the impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic and the onset of the global inflation. And for Bahamians, Dorian extended that compounded trauma. But there seems to be an interesting pattern of where we are seeing the selective rebound. Islands like New Providence, Cat Island, San Salvador, y'all see a pattern? Rumkey and the Exumas saw a significant boost. But what about the rest of the Bahamians across the archipelago? Other Andres you call Andres. Where's the focus on Grand Bahama and the other family islands? Where is their growth? The number shows that despite these gains, other family islands fare less. As they put it, they experience a contraction. But as the young people say, this New Day government need to make it make sense or push out. Mr. Deputy, when we look at Long Island, the GDP growth declined by 10% in 2022 when compared to 2021. Long Island was more prosperous under the previous F&M administration during COVID and than under this administration. Thank you, Minister Administration. Thank you, Adrian Gibson. Thank you, F&M Cabinet, for Long Island's care and sustainability during this time of COVID and before. Other islands that saw a reduction in GDP growth under the PLP governance, according to the other side, are Abaco, reduction, Mayaguana, Inagua, Crooked Island, Auckland, and Eleuthera. For all the criticism they have levied against us, the Prime Minister should have mentioned that in such a short period of time they borrowed, what, about $1 billion? At least $1 billion so far. And guess what? They didn't even have Dorian or COVID. So make it make sense or push out. In less than a few days of the confirmation, and listen to what we did. And listen to what we did now. In less than a few days of the confirmation of the unknown virus, the F&M government of the day had already begun implementing mitigation efforts to stop a possible spread when we knew nothing about the virus. It was a proactive action in the early days that saw stringent measures implemented to protect Bahamians, so much that confirmed cases remained significantly low in those early days. Check the records, check the data. The former administration immediately recognized that the COVID-19 pandemic was going to affect our nation, and that quick, decisive action is what continued to keep the country afloat during uncertain times. We implemented the special economic recovery zones. Y'all remember that? The surge zone for Grand Bahama and Abaco in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian to provide hundreds, not tens, hundreds of millions in VAT and duty exemptions to aid in the rebuilding and restoration of impacted communities. We also implemented search for less developed islands of the Bahamas, like Andros and the Southern Bahamas, to a special VAT and duty exemption for vehicles, commercial and construction activities in those islands, because we understood that those islands were in need. We implemented a national feeding program with the help of multiple NGOs and provided over $190 million in funding to provide unemployment assistance to unemployed Bahamians. Not one job was lost. We issued small business loans to hundreds of SMEs and helped to keep dozens of companies open. We upgraded healthcare facilities and sought to provide the necessary support to respond to the challenges of the day. You know, when I went on Saturday with my uncle and my cousins to identify, my cousin was lying in bed. Her brother was like, I am shocked. This feels like a new hospital. The ICU ward was incredible. See, feel like I'm in the States. He said, I hear they say, I on the other side, but must admit, y'all did some work. Impressive. We knew that in the aftermath of the devastating Hurricane Dorian and newly discovered novel coronavirus, the need was great across the archipelago. We ensured that VAT, St. Barnabas, we ensured that VAT remained off bread basket items, off medicine, off insurance, baby food, supplies and clothing, because we knew that this would make life just a little bit easier. Last week I went to one of the food stores in Grand Bahama, and honestly, I almost thought I was at a suck-teeth festival. As I walked down the aisle, listening to people, everyone was like, suck teeth all day, till I started looking at the price and started sucking my teeth too. The price is just outrageous, just difficult for people to survive. And that is in the, we had a section, bread basket section, where there was no VAT. Guess what? That is now gone. This state government has implemented a backdoor system of taxation, claiming that there are no taxes, while their policies and projections say otherwise. Sounds like a contradiction to me. We have said before that the government made a grave misstep in decreasing VAT and adding the tax back on bread basket items, medicine, insurance, baby food and products, medicine and feminine products that were previously zero rated under the former administration. They had no foresight to see how their decision would ultimately hurt Bahamians. The Prime Minister boasted, in fact, he even admitted that they collected $110 million more in VAT. Now, that's from taxing the poor on bread basket items, How else do you drop VAT to 10%, but still collect more money than when it was 12? Do the math. They pull a sleight of hand on the Bahamian people. They pull a sleight of hand and they say it's not tax. But one of our former leaders used to say, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If it looks like tax, if it quacks like tax, if it hurts like tax, it is tax.
That's right.
They give the impression that they were lowering VAT to help the poor. They didn't increase the minimum wage to supposedly help the poor.
Papa stores to close down.
But then turned around and made it harder for Bahamians to access to food, insurance, and medication they need to survive. These are the things that Bahamians purchase more of, and in some instances, every day. So in fact, by the removal of the zero rate of VAT, they have increased the cost of living for all Bahamians, especially the poor and vulnerable. Make it make sense, like they say, or push out.
Push out.
Mr. Deputy,
Facts are there.
the member for Kill Island
They ate bread baskets.
said he's convinced. Well, one member over here today say he's eating lamb chops and beef. Not bread basket. I ain't calling the name. He says he's eating lamb chops and beef, so that's high-end food. The member for Kill Island said he's convinced that the government's fiscal policy, namely the reduction of VAT, coupled with other reductions in customs, duties, and excise tax, contributed significantly to economic growth. But guess what? We're not convinced. The Bahamian people are not convinced. We cry shame on this backdoor system of taxation. It's like throwing rocks and hiding your hands. Pulling rocks and hiding your hand. This New Day government claimed this budget will be more people-centric. They said it will be focused on generating more revenue for the public purse, without raising taxes. No increase in the VAT rate. No increase in custom duties, excise tax, tax rates, and real property tax. But we beg to differ. It looks like tax. It walks like tax. It smells like tax. It hurts like tax. So therefore, it is tax. There are new regulations to regulate the water sport industry. Well, let me say, how do young people say? There are new regulations to regulate the water sport industry will whack the jet ski operators, the vendors, the banana boat operators, the fishing boats, and all the entrepreneurs who eat, sleep, and breathe soft life, those who survive on the blue economy. Fees are expected to see significant increase. And I have all of the bills bound. We refer to them on a regular basis. A-class licenses, fees will increase from $50 to $100.
Wow, double.
That is a 100% increase. B-class licenses, fees will increase from $30 to $50. That is an increase of 66.67% increase. Listen to me. Listen to this. Examination fees will be raised from $30. I'm going to slow down now. Examination fees will be raised from $30 to $100. That is an increase of 233.34%. And it gets worse.
Education?
Duplicate license fees will be raised from $10 to $100. That is a 900% increase. This is a new day of fee increase. You have to be rich to afford a 20-foot boat in this country. How does this impact fishermen? Again, we say, why are we supporting this backdoor system of taxation? They are saying no taxes, but their policies and projections says otherwise. We say it's time to go from saying PLP all the way to PLP gone away. The member for Cat Island said his government will not introduce a sin tax anymore. After Tall Pine said it would. Again, a government of conflict and contradiction. So instead, they decided to give in to the lobbyists. These businesses get a pass while the rest of us pay the price for increased health care costs due to non-communicable illness. Why is the PLP giving in to the sugar industry and not prioritizing human health? Why are we giving into the sugar industry? First the corned beef and now sugar. Who is buying? Who's causing this? Who's causing the government to turn a blind eye? The Prime Minister and his ministers do not seem to be on the same page again. Who is steering the ship? I said it. Some singing on the same page. Madam Speaker. I said this is a government of conflict. You see, in this case, the people hear what you say and they see what you do. I understand you're trying to cause problems. Their solution is to increase revenue. Yeah, I understand. I know you're pro. Increase revenue collection by improving tax compliance and enforcement, and announce that they will establish a large taxpayer unit. Why? I wonder why. We wish them well. We wish you well. The tax police force. My goodness. Though we have absolutely no expectation from them to properly implement this level of oversight. They just can't seem to get it straight. The story's mixed up. Our leader said one good way to evaluate bad money managers, what he said, is when they're having money problems, they seek to take yours. I once again echo opposition's demand, and this is serious, that the government bring back the highly effective VAT holidays for the hurricane season. Oh, you agree with this, Weston? Bring it back. We in the hurricane season. For the holidays, hurricane season, and for back-to-school shopping that were introduced and implemented under the F&M. No, it wasn't done.
We didn't do it last year. We did not do it last year.
No, you did not. We asked for it. We begged for it. We pleaded for it on behalf of the people. We asked, we begged, we pleaded for it. It did not happen. This new day government says that its plan since coming to office were already bearing fruit. You see that? All I'm saying, the plan since coming to office is already bearing fruit. But where's the bearing fruit? Because to us, these trees look very bare. And I wonder who is eating this fruit that they're speaking of? Must be the forbidden fruit that we were told not to eat. Certainly not anyone who come to us every day seeking help. From what we can tell, this was supposed to be a new day for Bahamians. But what Bahamians can truly say, that they believe this country is any safer. Which Bahamian can say that? It's any safer today than it was on September 16, 2021. I believe we have an obligation to ensure that we are bettering the lives of the people we serve and are upholding the values of freedom our forefathers fought for. What social service support is being implemented to help the most vulnerable in the country? The Bahamian people simply want to know. They deserve a government that has the foresight to ensure they are fail-safe, that their fail-safe are in place. I want to ask the Bahamian people a few questions. What does this budget do for you? Does it allow you to pay your bills? Does it allow you to secure a career? Do you feel as if your future is secured? Do you feel safer? Are your children being protected? Do you feel as if your sovereign rights are being threatened? Do you believe that Bahamians are being put first. You know, I'm gonna divert a bit. We have some Bahamians out there, and I want to say congratulations to Dr. Trevor Johnson. Dr. Trevor Johnson, who was the first Bahamian to receive a PhD in disaster management. He's from the West. I'm proud of Trevor. He worked with me for 2 years in the ministry, and I referred him to the good minister from Pinewood Gardens, and we're keeping an eye on him. But Trevor just graduated with his PhD. We should have system in place where in the 60s, when our forefathers talked about Bahamianization, to ensure that we have system in place to keep the best, to retain and bring the best of the best back home. Yes. People have this view that Bahamianization is a concept of xenophobia and hate. No, I think it is a concept of recognition and empowerment for Bahamians. We cannot allow someone like a Trevor to leave. I heard now he's got a job at the Pacific Disaster Committee. We need to find funds to bring someone like a Trevor back home, and there are many. We are in the Hurricane Corridor. We should go hard after someone like that and pay him what he's worth to structure programs in here. Yes. Yeah, y'all need to learn something then. If we talk about which we agree, Aisha Bo, a young Bahamian, just got some $1 billion worth of contract from NASA. A young Bahamian engineer. I wonder if in this country, if we needed that amount of money, would we have gone to a local Bahamian to get that? But NASA hired her to provide over $1 billion worth of supplies for them. A wonderful achievement, Aisha. Congratulations. Dr. Myron Road from the Bahamas, one of the best neurosurgeons in the world. He's away. We need to get them back home. Dr. Sidney McPhee is the president of MTSU, a Bahamian. I remember the Prime Minister spoke at the convocation in May. Now, I'm going to bring this home. We have a young Bahamian in this country who I believe was overlooked over and over again. Recently, the president of the University of the Bahamas resigned. And someone from the board is brought back. I'm not sure if she's a Bahamian, but there's a Bahamian who's qualified for that position. If we could have a Sidney McPhee in charge of MTSU in the States, in Tennessee, why can't we have Dr. Ian Strachan in charge of the University of the Bahamas? And don't tell me it's a board decision. Don't say it's a board decision because the government, based on policies, why isn't Dr. Ian Strachan in charge of UB? What are we doing? And don't tell me he's not qualified. Why is he not there? We need to find a way to ensure that justice is served on that line. Yes, he's in Grand Bahama, but we don't mind him coming to NASA if it's going to be upward mobility for a Bahamian to head the highest tertiary education institution in this country. Another Bahamian. I watched sports over the weekend. I watched golf over the weekend. The U.S. Open, a major. And the USGA is headed by a black man, a Bahamian, the first in over 100 years of existence. Fred Popal from Beck. And see, I've been blessed because both Trevor Johnson and Fred Popal work with me as students. And I'm so proud that Fred elevated now. Yes, he's designing the hospital. But here's where I'm getting with this. We're talking about Bahamianization. Fred Popal is the president of one of the richest sporting organizations in the world, the USGA. But friends, colleagues, Bahamas, let me tell you this. There is not one Bahamian, if I'm wrong, point it out to me, in charge or as the director of golf at any of the golf courses in the Bahamas. Now, that should wake up all of us. He has the biggest organization in golf in the world, a Bahamian, and not one of our golf courses in this country has a Bahamian as a director. At Winding Bay, no Bahamian holding staff. At Baker's Bay, Llewellyn, Uncle Lou Kelman, he's a professional. At the Royal Blue, at Bahama, no Bahamian. At Ocean Club, no Bahamian. At Albany Club, no Bahamian director. At the Reef in Grand Bahama, no Bahamian director of golf. At Sandals, no Bahamian director of golf. We're losing a lot of them. And Life for Key, none. And I'm not pointing a finger. I'm just saying we need to Bahamianize. All of us need to focus. All of us. I'm not pointing my finger on that side. I'm saying all of us collectively, all of us need to ensure, all of us. I've been advocating for this forever. It's getting worse before it gets better. We don't know anyone who can truly answer the question that is better today. The Bahamian deserves real change. We need innovation, real reform, and real relief. When the FNM government left office, the New Day government, as a matter of fact, met an economy under uptick. Yes. This is the first time it's time for you to wake up. This is the first time a new government could come into office and not have to worry about the treasury being broke. Y'all made plenty of money there. It was fat. Y'all made it fat. Thanks to the vision and fiscal policy of our administration. The minister administration took the country from a decade of no growth to a consecutive period of economic growth prior to Hurricane Dorian and the pandemic. Check the facts. We ensured that there was a strong pipeline of inward investments to fuel sustained economic growth. Mr. Deputy, the former government provided unprecedented support to Bahamian entrepreneurs and small businesses and established the Small Business Development Center. It's the SBDC Access Accelerator to provide direct support and funding for entrepreneurs. Approximately $70 million had been approved by the government for SMEs. And as of April 2021, $53 million had been has been disbursed to approximately 1,800 businesses. I remember the number. We implemented the private sector employment retention program. See, that was so good. We implemented the private sector employment retention program that provided over $40 million in tax credit. We wasn't adding tax, He's giving tax credit. To help meet the payroll expenses of over 14,000 unemployed persons during the pandemic. Much of the performance being reported can be tied directly to the artist's work of the previous administration. But we understand and acknowledge that governments are continuous, and we want the government to succeed. Because if you win, we all win. 22 minutes. Oh, I get plenty of time. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, yeah. How much time do you have? 20 minutes left? Okay. We just want to ensure. Boy, the wicked flee with no man pursues.
Pressure too tall.
I tell you. We just want to ensure that it is done with transparency and accountability. Mr. Deputy, we ask this new government, where are the solutions? Mr. Deputy, the Bahamian people deserve more than just pretty words and poor promises. We heard of plans for investment into a new shantytown task force and scoffed once again at the focus on the them and not the us. They pontificated about infrastructure investment and food security. But where are the real plans for the development of farming and fishing? And Lord, Central and South Illustra's not even here for me to beg for. No. What is being done to identify, secure, and protect our natural resources and make it work for the people? Mr. Deputy, again I say, where there is lack of vision, the people perish. We simply want this New Day government to make it make sense or push out. Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, my former minister, you want to hear? As a former athlete and former minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, I truly believe that not enough is being done to protect. I truly believe that not enough is being, listen to the preacher. Listen to the preacher, audience. Listen to the preacher. Listen to the preacher. I truly believe that not enough is being done to protect our natural talent resources. I believe that pound for pound, we are the best in the world. We, all of us, are the best in the world. More funding, and I beg for it, is needed for talent search, talent development, and exposure to the global stage. I'm looking at the budget. and maybe the minister, when we get to the heads, he'll answer this question. How can the Bahamas Games receive $1.3 million? The Bahamas Games, in our 50 days of existence, yet the World Relays is receiving over $3 million.
Because the money been spent on things like
Oh,
this.
Jesus.
Invitation box. To give invitations, really? When you got one, you got one.
What is being allocated for our developmental program? How much time you say I have now? How much time do I have?
I want a record that I
The talent displayed by a cricket swimming team, the talent displayed by the cricket swimming and track team. I'm being like this government now. I put on my blinders. I'm looking straight there. The talent displayed by our cricket swimming and track team should have automatically caused the government to invest millions more into our sporting programs.
No shame.
There has been no significant increase for the Bahamas Olympic Committee. And look at this. We know Olympic cycle goes every 4 years. The pandemic shifted that. Next year, in 2024, we have an Olympic. The Olympic Games are being held in Paris, France. 2 years later, in 2026, not 4 years later, in Milan, Italy. Look at the line items. Not enough is being allocated. I think that's an oversight that we will speak to later when we get to the heads. 2 years, in 2024, Paris, and 2026 in Italy. And there's no increase for the BOC. There's no increase for the B3As. When we get to that later. More should have been invested in the program than facilities. I think a lot of us don't realize that we have the Olympics 2 years back to back. But in our year, when we were sitting in the chair, the minister didn't even go to the Olympics. We gave all the money to the BOC, to the athletes, to ensure that they were safe, that they were protected. We gave them an increase. A much smaller team got a major increase. So I'm just asking on behalf of the athlete, of which I'm a part, to give us more money. To give us more money. You can access that. You can access that during the heads of agreement, heads negotiation. We get to that. But as always, we are the new day. But as always, we are a new day late. We are a new day late and $1 million short. More emphasis must be given to making Grand Bahama a sports power. I can pick some fight. Thanks for the proposed 50-meter swimming pool, Cardinals. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. But we need more sporting facilities. The YMCA was always a mainstay for sports in Grand Bahama and a training ground for professional teams, like the Dolphins. Unfortunately, not my Cowboys and the Lakers, but the Dolphins used to go there every year. We must make funds available to upgrade the YMCA and to invest into sporting programs like swimming, track and field, baseball, basketball, and football or soccer. For some reasons, we can't seem to even fix St. George's gym right. I know the blood, sweat, and tears that our athletes invest just to have the chance to perform on the global stage. We have been proven to throw, not only to throw, but to land knockout punches well above our weight class. I understood then and now the need to give them all the support they require as they serve on the global stage as goodwill ambassadors for the country. Let us put more money behind these athletes and the programs. I do believe that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture is the most underfunded ministry in the government. It's my belief. When are we going to recognize that our athletes, coaches, and sporting teams are our most valuable and easily accessible natural resources? Mr. Deputy, while we are talking about aragonite, oil, sand, and sea, let us not forget our human capital. They are our undisputed champions. These are our untapped natural resources. If we put real money into that ministry, we will indeed realize even more dividends. It must be underscored that youth, sports, and culture are three of the major fabrics of our Bahamian identity that requires investment at the highest level. We hope that this government will take it a step further. We hope that this government will take it a step further and provide the necessary training, facilities, and equipment to allow our athletes to remain at the global stage competitive level. without having to struggle or beg for help. The importance of investing in our athletes cannot be understated. Investing and must remain a top priority for this New Day government. We as a country are not doing enough for sports and the orange economy. If you want to take it personal, that's on you. I'm talking about the whole country. The orange economy, the arts, Junkanoo, Bahamian music, and our culture requires a concerted effort on the way forward. And call me Grand Bahama centric, but that's my prerogative. That's my prerogative. Call me Grand Bahama centric. Grand Bahama Junkanoo needs to be promoted more and certainly needs to be developed. Most people around the Bahamas are unaware. Most people around the Bahamas and tourists are unaware of the prowess of Grand Bahama Junkanoo. Let me brag about my Junkanoo team. Let me brag about my Junkanoo team. The Platinum Knights. The Platinum Knights have won. The Platinum Knights have won five Junkanoo championship in a row. 5 years in a row, they won the championship. And yes, they every year, boom, 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 Platinum Knights. They just came into existence. And since they came coming into existence, they won it all. Now, let's pick the fight. I'm ready to say that pound for pound, they're perhaps the best Junkanoo group in the country. Bar none. Now, I want to challenge the minister that the same way they paid a handsome sum of money and they bought one family, the Grand Bahama, put some money into the Platinum Knight, bring them to Nassau, put them on Bay Street during Boxing Day. Pound for pound, they probably win the parade. In this way, people living in Nassau will see that, hey, guess what? They don't have scrap groups in Grand Bahama. They have real Junkanoo. The tourists will say, well, they don't have scrap groups. They have real Junkanoo in Grand Bahama, and perhaps that will help to boost our economy, give them more exposure. More on the orange economy. We have had some of the greatest musicians to hit the global stage. Great Ronnie Butler, Tony McKay, the OBA man, the D-Connection, and how could we forget Who Let the Dogs Out, Bahaman. I still don't think we capitalize on opportunities that they will have created for the younger generation. When will we stop missing the boat? Protection of women and children. I was encouraged to hear the member for Cat Island announce that the government is has allocated funding to build a women's shelter and are increasing legal aid support for victims of domestic violence. Thank you, Cat Island. That's a good announcement. When nothing was done to highlight the needs and protection of our children during Children Protection Month this year, I was a bit disappointed. So I'm happy to see the shift. I truly believe our children are not being protected enough and the youth are not empowered. We are in desperate need of innovative policies to protect women and children. I was encouraged to hear that funding will be provided for a National Youth Guard program to support the personal growth and development of our young people. We must go further. Let us continue to push for the revision and implementation of the National Youth Policy. And thank you, Gardner, he's not here. He spoke to that, and I certainly support the initiative. So I look forward to his presentation in October, seeing how we can put the best policy forward to protect our youth. It is integral that we ensure that this policy goes full speed ahead in order to protect our children, empower our youth, and provide opportunities to secure their future. We must also put incentives in place to not only stop the brain drain, but give Bahamians a reason, like I said earlier, to want to return home and be active citizens in our future developments. Bahamians are ready for relief. They want more. They deserve more. So in closing, as always, the official opposition, you can't wait for the pressure to get off, right? You can't wait. Too much pressure on you today.
Good thing. You have 10 minutes.
So we're talking about the brain drain. I want all of those in the audience, those watching, to have hope, because we are the ones who need to implement the policies to ensure that our children, we have a retention program. They want to return home. We go out into the world and seek out the best of the best. We always say that based on our policy, we cannot afford to bring this person home. But we are the policy makers. They sent us here to agitate on their behalf. Let us change the policy so that we can bring the best of the best home. Let us do it. Let us do it. Kudos. Let's keep doing. Let's do more. Kudos. I support that. We brought back. We also offered contract to ensure that we attracted the best of the best in the public service. We need reform. We need to fix it because we cannot attract the best of the best with the funds that we pay. We need to fix it. We need to fix it. We, the policy makers, all of us together, need to bring the bills to add to this compendium of bills to ensure that we empower, that we attract, that we bring the best of the best back home. We need to ensure that we protect our sovereign wealth. We need to ensure that when our investors come here, that we protect our people where they will not pack up and leave us holding the leaky bags. It is up to us to do it. That is why the people elected us. That is why they sent us here. This is sounding like a fish market. None at all. None. No, I want to make sure my speech is taller than you. I'll make sure, oh, this is too painful.
Members,
Man, they're saying, Senator Graham, sit down, this is too painful. I understand. I really understand. Oh, it hurts. See, my speech is hurting like the tax they're putting on the Bahamian people. That's right. This is hurting like the tax they're putting on the Bahamian people. Yes. The thing that walks like tax, that talks like tax, that smells like tax, that is tax. It's painful. I understand. It's hurting you. It is hurting you. I understand. I fully understand. I understand. There's no way of easing up today.
members.
Stick to your script.
But as always, the official opposition, I could table it. I ain't got it. I can table it. It's right here. I know. I want the member to get up on the feet and say that. Don't say it in your seat. If you're bold enough, get up and say it. Say it on the floor. We heard. Say it on the floor. Get up on the floor and say it. As always, the official opposition is here to provide bipartisan support for this New Day government. I thank the people of the Bahamas and I thank God for the many blessings over the Commonwealth in these tumultuous times. I am continually honored and grateful for this responsibility to be a representative for the people of Central Grand Bahama. And I will continue to do my part to advance our country forward, upward, onward, together, Central Grand Bahama rest.
Thank you, honorable member.